So this round 7 recap of the London Chess Classic. We had Bartel playing with the black pieces and Hans playing with the white pieces. And so the game starts with e4, then e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop to c4, knight to f6, d3, h6, c3, d6, a4, g6, a5. So early pawn push on the queen side. a6 stopping the progress. White castles, bishop to g7, knight b to d2, and then black castles kingside. Despite having pushed 2 pawns up already, still deciding to castle kingside. Rook e1, knight h7, queen b3, king h8, bishop captures f7, queen f6, bishop back. So white has a slight advantage here, 0.6. g5, rook e2, g4. So pushing those pawns, so bringing the knight back for a little extra protection and still going for a pawn push by Bartel. Knight back, h5, really pushing those pawns. Knight f1, trying to solidify defense. h4, just push. Queen to d1 was played, and then knight to e7, queen to d2, c6, starting to push for some center control. g3, d5, pushing for more center control, offering a pawn trade, trying to kick the bishop out. Bishop moves back. Now bishop to e6, knight to g2, knight to g6, e captures d5, c captures d5, and d4. e4, so taking space, even more space control with the pawns. Rook a4, h3, attacking the knight. So really pushing for space. Rook e1, queen f7, knight b4, rook a to c8, bishop c2, start to try to point towards the king. Bishop f6, queen d1, bishop d8, bishop h6, rook g8, c4, bishop g5, and so at this point now it turns to a 1-point advantage for Bartel. Bishop captures g5, knight captures g5. I still think it's very wild that there's no pawns in front of the king. Knight to e3, knight to h4. So now white has about a 2-point advantage. Pawn captures, but this is playing for a counterattack. Knight to f3 with check. King side steps, because if you take right there with the knight, then you're inviting g captures potentially. If you take here, you're opening either discovery this way, which could be bad, or even this way, taking and attacking the rook, and the eval likes either of those, because now the king still can try to get away, but you're going to be stuck trying to defend over there. So you had that pawn capture, knight with check, king side stepped, and this was considered inaccurate, but a knight took the pawn, really trying to keep the king in the open. White didn't capture. Instead, c captures d5, g3, really pushing, dx e6, counter attacking and attacking the queen. G2 check. It says that queen of f4 was best to try to get the queen safe. So now knight captures, knight g captures g2, pawn captures g2 with check, and the king sidesteps. So now you basically, the rook is defending, the knight can attack, or is attacking that pawn, but the king right now is stuck on the g square. Queen of f4, and the evaluation right now is almost +5 for white. Rook captures e4, queen captures f2 with check, king captures f2, g1 check, king to e2, knight to f1. Now queen sidesteps to give room for the king. Rook to g2 check, king to d1. Then we have rook c captures c2, and queen captures c2, which was a blunder. So at this point, the eval is +6 for Hans, but despite the all-out attack, but by capturing here, the eval swings in Bartel's favor. And so queen captures, then rook captures, then knight captures. And so if we count the pieces, black has 2 pawns, a knight and a queen. White has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns, 2 rooks, and a knight. And black's winning right here by a point. It's pretty even though. So you have knight to e3 with check, stepping up instead of trading. Queen to f2 with check, stepping up to d3. Now knight captures c2, so giving back some material. Then we have d5, because you got those connected passed pawns in the center. Like white, you would think they're winning, but the king's so exposed. Now you have giving up the knight for one of those rooks. So knight captures b4 with check, rook captures b4. Now you have queen to c5 getting back in the game. Rook to d4 getting behind, put the rook behind the passed pawn. Queen to d6, which stops the advancement. King to e4 to get active. King to g7 to prevent the white king from getting too far up the board. Rook to d3 was considered inaccurate, but to cut off the king, probably thinking about coming to the f-file. And you have queen to h2, maybe trying to attack from behind. Rook to c3. So now white has a 3-point advantage at this point. I'm sorry, black has a 3-point advantage at this point. So white captures the king with check. The king steps up because it's trying to help with the pawn advance. Now queen to h5 check. King steps back. Queen to h4 check. King steps up. Maybe hoping for repetition, but you know, they both at this point have like 18 and 15 minutes. Now the queen is attacking the pawn on b7, and also probably working to cut the king off to get to the d6. So king to e4, king to g6, rook to c8, try to attack the base of black's pawns, queen to d6, rook to c2, queen to g3, rook to c8, maybe hoping to repeat, king to g7, king to d4, f4 with check, and now black was able to cut the king off from the d pawn. So now we have queen to d6, king comes back to protect. Now black king gets in the game, hoping to get to e5, rook over to h8, queen c7 check, got the king back to d4, queen g7, attacking the rook, hoping for some discoveries, rook to h1, king to e7 with a discovery check, king to c5, queen to g6. Now the king can try to go after the pawn on b7, but this is still winning for black. Rook to c1, queen to d3. The king is stuck defending this d pawn. Now we have rook to c4, queen to e3 with check, rook to d4 protecting the pawn. Now we have queen to c1 check, now protecting the king, rook to c4, but the queen captures another pawn on b2, rook to e4, hoping to now push the pawn, but you have queen to b5 with check, so now white has a 6.6 point advantage. King to d4, queen captures a5, so now white's down to 2 pawns of which it really can't advance, and now black has 2 outside pass pawns. King to e5, queen to c7, king to f5, and it was in this position that white resigned the game. It's just nothing more to be done, and it's early in the game I thought black was winning, but they were overextending themselves, and as I said, like pushing so aggressively in front of their king. But after a blunder and a couple of mistakes, they truly were able to take the game from Hans. So fortunately for Hans, 2 tough games in a row, but we'll see if he bounced back. And thanks again for checking out this recap of the London Chess Classic Round 7 with my chess Christmas pieces. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.